Here we're going to look at positional release for the psoas. So if you have a client who's got a really spasmodic, hypertonic psoas, or where they have tenderness in that hip flexor, this is a lovely way to get a release. Especially given it's a muscle that you're not going to be using effleurage, petrissage on, it's a really nice way to affect that muscle. So in terms of attachments, it attaches to the inside of the lumbar spine and comes down through the pelvis and into the femur. So it's deep to the abdominals. So in terms of locating it and locating the tender points, there are two good indicators as to where you might find those. The first is to find the belly button, come roughly 2 inches out, 2 inches down, and to palpate through there. So we want to be imagining that we're coming in and under towards the lumbar spine. So you're going to sink nice and gently and come in towards the spine. Any tenderness here? Okay, so communicate with your client. Okay, so they're quite tender here. If you're unsure as to whether or not that is the psoas, we can always get our client to create that flexion. So I'm going to remove the pillow because we're going to use the legs. Knees up, thank you very much. And just bring their knees to 90 degrees. That's going to protect their knees so that they're not locked out in extension. Now come back to that point. So 2 inches out, 2 inches down. I'm going to palpate. Any tenderness here? Okay. And then just try and bring this knee up, flex the hip there. Okay, and you'll feel the psoas, or you'll feel tension pop up into your fingers. So that's a good indicator that you're on the right lines and we're working in that fascial space of the psoas, even if we're not directly on it. So once we have found the tender spot, we're going to talk to our clients about the process. So this spot where I am, we're going to say that's a 10. Okay? I'm going to move and position your leg and hip in different positions, and we're aiming to try and get that down to about a 3. Okay? As we move through each position, I want you to let me know if the position has eased or if it has gotten worse. And we're going to fine tune and find that position of ease. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is lift my client's leg. We're going to come up and into flexion. Has that eased? Okay, and where are we? Given we were on a 10.
5.
We're 5, so that's good. You want to stop with each movement and just check where you're at. If you do too many movements at once, it can be quite difficult for your client to register whether or not a specific movement has helped or not. I'm now just going to bring the leg into a little bit of adduction. Has that eased it further or made it worse?
No change.
No change. Okay, I'm going to bring the leg up further into flexion, a little bit of adduction. Has that made it better or worse?
Worse, I think.
Worse. So we're going to come back a little bit, and I'm going to add a little bit of rotation. So I'm just externally rotating the foot, which is internally rotating the hip. Has that eased?
Yeah.
Brilliant. And where are we now?
Less than a 5.
Fantastic. So now that we're down to around a 3, we're going to hold that for about 90 seconds. So watch body mechanics here. As you can see, the client's arm is resting on my elbow is tight to my waist, and I'm in a nice lunged position. So I'm able to hold this with ease for 90 seconds. And just coach your clients to breathe, nice slow, long breaths. We're trying to stimulate that neuromuscular response to get that release in the muscle where there was spasm. You might feel that release under your fingers, you might not, so we want to hold it for about 90 seconds. And then once that 90 seconds is up, we're going to do a very slow and gradual return to neutral. Keep holding that spot, straighten the legs for me. Lovely, and the opposite leg. Lovely, and now palpating that point, I can feel, before my client even tells me, that actually there's no restriction there, there's no barrier, it feels really nice and soft. So in terms of our starting point that was 10, where are we now?
5.
Fantastic. So remember, move slowly, fine tune, and every client's different. So don't expect to know where that ease is, communicate with your client and find the release.